Good morning, everybody. It's your girl Miracle Sims, and you're listening to God, Sex, and Love. Your daily dose of inspiration, not chips. It is April the 7th, 2023, and today the topic is making light of God's sacrifice. Happy Good Friday, everybody. Happy Good Friday. I hope that you all had a great day yesterday. Mine was just fine. Yesterday was a lot of stuff going on. Y'all know that the church, of course, is getting ready for the weekend and whatnot. And so I went on into work and yeah, there was a lot of things going on yesterday. Obviously people running around and prepping for um, Easter, the decorations, different things of that nature. Um, I would say one thing that Mountain West does pretty well is like get into the different holidays or different celebrations and things like that. And so it was interesting being on the other end this go around because usually I've just enjoyed it over the years. I've been someone to come in and see all the hard work that the people have done to, bring whatever the theme is to life and things like that. But yesterday I was a part of it. I was behind the scenes and everything like that. There was a funeral going on at the church. I don't know if they were members of the church or who, but that was another thing that happened. And then, unfortunately, an unfortunate thing happened yesterday. Somebody chose during, I guess, this funeral to break into some cars at the church, and so it's crazy because my car was fine. Nothing happened to my car. I guess they were targeting certain types of cars, things of that nature. And I know some of the people, some of the other volunteers that was there and whatnot. I think the pastor's wife car got broken into, and people were like, at a church. You know what I'm saying? But that's how crazy this world is. Yeah, these type of things. I mean, we just had a few weeks ago, something happened at a Christian school. So, I mean, this is what it looks like, lawlessness. This is what, um, people that don't value God, right, and don't value others, right? Just those. It was very interesting. Me and my husband have been having a lot of spiritual conversations lately, which on one hand is a beautiful thing. So shout out to him. I know everybody, we're all on our individual journeys to learn more and everything like that. And but anywho, basically, yeah, we were having some more conversation and whatnot. And like I said, I mean, on one hand, we want to believe that humanity is good overall and stuff, but unfortunately, I think the truth is being seen around us. Uh, Unfortunately, people are using their free will for evil. And, these are some of the results and things that we have to deal with. And no, it doesn't feel fair or right or anything like that. But I guess today I would implore us to put ourselves in God's shoes for a moment. I believe that that's what the prayer meditation this morning kind of had me to do. Not necessarily fully put myself in God's shoes, but like to just acknowledge the sacrifice that he gave and what he did. And again, as I acknowledge what Christ has done, right, I'm very aware that he didn't have to. At the end of the day, God did not have to do what he did. God did not have to make a way for us, especially becoming the sacrifice. That's what I say. It's kind of, making light of God's sacrifice is just it's very unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate. And so I hope today's conversation will help anybody listening to the sound of my voice at least think about this stuff a little bit more and differently, because yeah, I mean, that's the topic for today. But yeah, I just think there's nothing better to reflect on this Good Friday, on this Good Friday, right? This anniversary of the day that Christ did what he did on the cross. And so, yeah, making light of God's sacrifice. I mean, ultimately, yeah, like I said, that's where the inspiration comes from today. And yeah, I guess we can go ahead and get into it because I don't think I have too much else to share in regards to yesterday and stuff like that. So yeah, like I said, I was listening to the prayer meditation this morning and they mentioned the word sacrifice, and that really is one of the things that pretty much inspired me to look into this morning. And the more I looked into it, the more, I guess I would say interesting things came into my heart and mind. And so obviously I looked up the definition of sacrifice. Now the interesting thing is when I Googled sacrifice, that definition, it just automatically talked about like doing something for God or something like that. But it just was like whatever the first definition that came up when I Googled, it didn't settle in my spirit. I just was like, what is just the general definition? Like without trying to put any type of bias on it, like what is the general definition? I also saw a biblical definition as well, but I wrote down the general definition that I came across, and it was funny because you know how you could you Google and then they'll show you stuff, and then at the bottom they'll show you like additional questions that's like around the same topic of whatever you're looking up. Well, the definition I ended up writing down was the one that came up with the question that said, what is the real definition of sacrifice? So I was like, I found that to be interesting because it's like, again, I didn't accept the first definition that I saw either. And it just was interesting to see that question down there. Like, well, what is the real definition? And then, yeah, so the real definition says destruction or surrender of something for the sake of something else, something given up or lost. So, yeah, I just felt like this definition was important this year because it just kind of has in general what sacrifice means without saying anything about, sacrificing to this or that, like without saying any of that, just the word sacrifice. I felt like this was a good definition for it. Destruction or surrender of something for the sake of something else. All right. Then when I looked up the definition of make light, because I know that, this is a phrase people say, oh, you make light of this, you make light of that, Well, I looked at the definition and it says treat as unimportant. Okay, so this is what I mean by make light of God's sacrifice. We make light of God's sacrifice. We treat as if it's unimportant. The destruction and surrender of Jesus. This is what we do all day, every day, unfortunately. And I just say we as humans, right? And I'm sure I've been guilty in my lifetime as well. So no judgment or whatever the case is. But again, like I said, on this Good Friday, let's reflect on this and hopefully change our hearts and minds in regards to, again, the sacrifice that God made through Jesus. Now, again, I think it's very important to acknowledge and reiterate that Jesus is God. I know we may not all receive that. I know we may not all agree X, Y, and Z, but according to the Bible, Jesus is God. And like I tell y'all all the time, like it took me until my adult life to fully understand that. Because again, hearing son, my whole life, I always separated them in my mind, in my heart and mind throughout life with the way I've been taught. I just separated them because it seems the Father is greater than the Son. And, it just always seemed to be separate. But again, in my adult life, I guess once I got some, sound teaching and whatnot at X, Y, and Z, I started to understand that Jesus is God. Okay. So when I say God sacrifice, I'm talking about God sacrificed himself. Okay, God sacrificed himself. And I guess basically based on that, I started to look up. I mean, well, we know why he did it for us, and ultimately for the original sin and everything like that. But I kind of wanted to go back to the beginning because I came across, I started to look into like human sacrifice and blood sacrifice and things of that nature. And once again, I forgot to make that banner for gotquestions.org, but that is a great resource to just look up your random questions, and I came across a couple of articles there, and that's where like I said, I started to look up like, okay, like I said, blood sacrifice or human sacrifice or why this, why that. And so I came across an article. Man, I guess I didn't do it. Oh, well. I'll put that up there. It's just gotquestions.org, y'all. Gotquestions.org. So anyway, so I went there and I came across one of them. It's in the Go Deeper section. It says, if God hates human sacrifice, how could Jesus' sacrifice be the payment for our sins? Okay. And then there's more articles that go along those lines and questions that are being answered. And one of the things that I don't think I ever really thought about before, but the article had to say, it just reminded me that the first sacrifice was like God's own doing. God did the first sacrifice. And if you're wondering to what I'm talking about, I'm referring to Adam and Eve, right? So we all know what happened in the garden, right? They ate the apple or whatever the fruit was. They ate the fruit. They ended up knowing that they were naked. They tried to clothe themselves in leaves and hide from God. All this, right? And so one of the things that they was told in the garden before this happened is that you will die if you do this, right? But we see that they didn't immediately die. But something did die that day, like based on, at least like I said, and I guess I just never paid attention to it like that. But it represents the first sacrifice. And even when I went and looked it up, right? So I was like, let me go look into see, like, let me look at these verses. So I went and I came across Genesis 3:21. And when I read it, it's going to be very like vague. It doesn't even tell us what type of animal it was or nothing, right? But obviously this was a very significant act. So I'll just read the verse and then I guess we can talk. So Genesis 3:21, it says, unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skins and clothe them. And that's all it says. It doesn't say anything extra in regards to, and it was this type of animal, whatever. So on one hand, I'm like, well, are we making it deeper? Like, did this count as a sacrifice? Well, technically, an innocent, whatever it was, I just have to assume it was an animal because it had skins. Okay. So this innocent animal lost its life. Why? Because of Adam and Eve and what they did. And this represents the ongoing message all the way up to Jesus. So again, on one hand, it's like, it's very, you can read past that verse and not think much of it, but on the flip side, I mean, you guys can look into it yourselves. I mean, I came across another article. It's also in the Go Deeper section. It's called When God Clothes Us. And then it's written by this Wil, Wil Rice IV. When the I in front of the V, that's 4, right? I think so. So anyway, yeah, that's also in the Go Deeper section. Y'all can go deeper about that, right? About God clothing us. Because again, obviously it was inadequate for them to be clothed in the leaves to God, I guess. And so he clothed them himself, which is, again, I guess on a deeper level or whatnot. But by all means, go and look into all of that on your own. But I guess that's technically the first sacrifice. That's why I guess, bringing it up in this conversation. That technically was the first sacrifice that at that time or at that moment, it seemed to be adequate enough for God not to take Adam and Eve out immediately, but to clothe them in this skins of this animal, whatever it was, right? And I guess go forth with the rest of his plan. Now, how does that relate to any of the other stuff, right? How does that relate to, what was that, Adam and him almost having to sacrifice his own son? No, Cain and Abel, because Cain sacrificed wait, am I getting them wrong? Abel sacrificed sacrifice was a little bit more suitable and in line with what God did. Compared to Cain's. Y'all can make sure I'm saying those names right. But anyway, and it's not that this is another thing that I've received over the past few months or whatever. Because I think I listened to a few things that has helped me to see this, that it wasn't that, the other sacrifice or the sacrifice of the fruit and vegetables and X, Y, and Z. It wasn't that wasn't a good sacrifice. But there's something about the blood that was more acceptable to God. But again, we have to go deeper with all of that. So I don't know who maybe listening to the sound of my voice and where we all are spiritually to be able to receive that. But there's just a lot there in regards to this. But anyway, so with this conversation of sacrifices and then this specific thing regarding blood sacrifices in particular and stuff like that, these are some verses that stood out to me. Okay, so Leviticus 17 and 11, it says, "For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it for you on the altar to make atonement for your souls, for it is the blood that makes atonement by the life." So again, on one hand, I've asked the question as well. I'm like, well, why was blood so important to God? Like, why did it represent this and that and the other? But I guess he will answer the questions if you seek, right? If you seek, you find some answers. If he wants to reveal those things to you. That's what I'm finding this morning. So yeah, that's something that stood out to me. Here's another verse that stood out to me this morning. It's Hebrews 9 and 22. It says, "Indeed, under the law, almost everything is purified with blood, and without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sins." So, it seems like, again, the shedding of innocent blood, i.e., I guess in that time it was the animals sacrifices. It help to secure the forgiveness for the sins to make us righteous with God. But let's go a little deeper, because then I came across Hebrews 10 and 4. It says, "For it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins." So there was this practice of having to do that in order to, again, be in relationship with God again, to communicate X, Y, and Z, but it could not take away sins. So therefore you had to do it over and over and over and over and over again. So what's helping me understand all of this is that God said that basically there will be death when they did what they did. Now, he also showed grace and mercy to them, that they didn't die that same day, but they still died, when I guess we weren't really supposed to be. Death wasn't supposed to be a thing for us. According to what my understanding is with studying and stuff, it seems like death was not supposed to be a thing for us. However, with us doing what we did and breaking the covenant between us, all this type of stuff, death is now in play. However, that needed to be atoned for. But at the same time, it's nothing could do it. Like, and I think that's what me and my husband having that conversation last night is like, the thing is, none of us, like, usually the sacrifices to God were like without blemish, perfect, lamb, perfect ram, whatever it is. Like, it was something of good, like good. It wasn't like, oh, just throw God the little runt or throw God the blind, whatever it was. It was like, it was something good, perfect, X, Y, and Z. And we've already established, the Bible is very clear that none of us are good nor perfect, to do it for ourselves. So therefore, God came down in the form of a man to fulfill his own decree against us, to then now give us a way back to him and into relationship with him and everything like that. And so all of this obviously is deep, and yes, it's on a whole nother level and stuff, but these are the things that I've come across, y'all. These are the things that are helping me to understand all this a little bit more. Again, with my questions of, well, why the blood and why this, and then why Jesus had to do it anyway, and all this type of stuff. And ultimately for us, right? Ultimately to show us grace and mercy, because there has to be judgment for the sins, according to the Bible. And so, and like I said, we understand that in human law, right? Because we want judgment all the time. Like, if anybody sins against us, we want the judgment for that, for the most part. Like, very rarely do you hear a human give grace and mercy to someone else that did them wrong. Like, it happens. I'm not saying it don't. And I think that's what we're supposed to do. But majority of us don't do that. Majority of us want justice. We want, things to be quote unquote fair, right? And things like that. Well, in order for the situation to be fair, there had to be sacrifice. Like I said, this is what helps me understand. So anyway, so then John 1:29, it says, the next day he saw Jesus coming toward him and said, behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Now, obviously, this is before Jesus, died. Obviously, somebody received the revelation, or the revelation that he was this sacrifice and things of that nature. He is the Lamb that is taking away the sins of the world. Look, I wasn't doing so much coughing or nothing until I started recording, which is very interesting. Is this message not wanting to come out today? Is whoever listening to the sound of my voice and something don't want y'all to hear this today? I don't know, but I hope y'all can receive it through my coughs and everything like that. I don't know. It's like the enemy trying to choke me out. I was not doing all this coughing this morning. Now all of a sudden, anyway, hey, it's Good Friday. We're going to reflect on the good thing that the Lord has done for us. Anywho, so yes, behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. So again, in the previous verse, we talked about that the bulls and the blood from the bulls and the goats could not take away sins. Now we can ask the question why. We can go deeper about that, X, Y, and Z. But the blood of Christ could take away sins. So let's keep going. So Ephesians 1:7. In him, we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of our trespasses according to the riches of his grace. So, again, the only sinless among us was Jesus, the only sinless man. Fully God and fully man. I know that's deep, but he's both, right? There's even an article, y'all can, I didn't write it down for the Go Deeper section, but y'all can go look into it. It's on godcourses.org as well. And it talks about, like, if Jesus knew that he was sacrificed or knew that he was going to be resurrected, then does that count? And I mean, the answer is yes, short answer, it does count. You can know that you're going to get something good from something bad, but that doesn't take away the deepness of the situation. Like let's talk about it before I get into the Bible verse of the day. So here's the thing, like if we really truly think about what Christ did, it's on a whole nother level beyond just the sacrifice of blood and death and whatnot. Like for God to humble himself and become a human, that's already like too deep for words, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, because again, he didn't have to do it at all. Can we acknowledge that? Put ourselves in God's shoes. Like I feel like we as humans, we would not do it. Like, because we don't do it for one another now. Like, so imagine if we're God and we created something and it turns its back on us. It tells us that we didn't create it. It does all the things. And then instead of just taking this whatever it is out, you and me, we're God, right? In this scenario, in this example, we are God. We humble ourselves and become like our creation to save our creation. They don't even know it, but to save our creation. And in order to do that, they beat, ridicule, mock, do all types of inhumane things to us. And in the midst, we don't use none of our power. We don't use none of our, abilities to stop this thing because we love our creation that much. Like, can we put brother Brent of Marriage Reunited, and I shared this example before, but I'm gonna share it again just in case anybody listens to the sound of my voice. Basically, Brother Brent broke this down for me in a way where it helped me understand this a little bit more as well. It's like, I'll use myself. It's like I sin against you, whoever you are listening to the sound of my voice. I do something so evil to you, the most evil thing to you. And instead of you getting justice on me and taking out your wrath and whatever that you could take out on me, instead of you doing that, you decide to take your innocent child. And I think it's very important that to look at it as an innocent child, which is what Christ came as a baby, very innocent child, and as a human, X, Y, and Z. So if we look at it as an innocent child, I think that takes it to a whole nother level as well. So that's probably why the Son is so prevalent in our doctrine, but whatever. I'm just saying this is what helps me understand it. Anyway, we take our innocent child and put all of our judgment and everything on the innocent child instead of me, the one who actually sinned against you. Instead of the one that actually did all the issue, whatever it is, instead of taking out justice and cutting me down, right? You take your own child, your innocent child, and put all of that on that innocent child. Like, I mean, I don't know if y'all see the magnitude of that. I don't know if that helps us break this whole thing down a little bit more to understand it. But it's like, I couldn't imagine sacrificing my son for someone else, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, let alone somebody that does great evil. So there you go. Now, again, understanding that God is Jesus and all that, and he sacrificed himself. Technically, he came down and was to sacrifice himself. That's on a whole nother level too, because just like we probably wouldn't sacrifice our son, we definitely probably wouldn't even sacrifice ourselves sometimes. Now, some people do. Again, people that are in the military, things of that nature, y'all may understand on another level about sacrificing yourself or sacrificing your family member for the greater good of X, Y, and Z. Right? Those people may have a little bit more understanding than me, but I haven't sacrificed myself nor my child for any evil. You see what I'm saying? So it's all of that. And then it's the humbleness of like, humbling yourself to again not use any of your power. You are omnipotent. You're not using any of the things that you have to change anything from being in that way because of the bigger picture. So anyway, y'all, I hope that this conversation helps us all today to not make light of God's sacrifice, because again, like those articles that I put on the Go Deeper section, I think they will help you all understand it a little bit more as well, because it's deeper than even just what I explained as well. Like, again, imagine your own creation killing you. Like, I mean, it's like it's unfortunately some people got that testimony, because I was about to say it's like my son turning around and spitting on me or killing me, but that happens in these days and times. So that's a whole nother thing too. But anyway, y'all, that's ultimately the juice, y'all. Let's not make light of God's sacrifice. The Bible verse of today is Isaiah 53:5. It says, "But he was wounded for our transgression. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed." Friends, I hope that you all enjoyed this juice this morning. Thank you so much for listening to God, Sex, and Love, your daily dose of inspiration and juice. I pray you guys can go forth and have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow, if the Lord's will. Don't forget that tonight, a new episode of the GSL Talk Show should be going live. It is a chat with Miss Amber Starr. Miss Amber Starr, life coach, Miss Starr, and I hope that you all tune into it. And like I said, take this time on Good Friday to reflect on what God has done for us. Have a great day. Bye-bye. And there you go, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, anybody listening to the sound of my voice. I hope that you all are encouraged and inspired. As you see, where's the coffin? You see what I'm saying? It's all good, though. I hope that you guys were able to understand and that it wasn't, you know what I mean, that it didn't take away from what I was trying to share. Spiritual warfare is real, y'all. Like, on one hand, it's like that's something else that we make light of. We don't think that it's that deep or something, but it's like, here I am sitting here talking to y'all plainly now. You see what I'm saying? But all while I was trying to record, it's like I was being choked, but whatever. Anyway, thank you all for listening, watching, subscribing, sharing, all those wonderful things. Today on Good Friday, my plan is to really, really deep dive into the piece that I'm going to be performing on Sunday, and make sure I got that thing together so the children can understand what God has done for us. And so I'm thankful, y'all. I'm thankful to be in this place. I'm thankful for everything that God is doing. And I hope these things encourage you and inspire you, y'all. All right. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow, if the Lord's will. Bye-bye. Oh, apparently my screen is, there we go. Bye.